The NBA draft is a week away. Payton Pritchard, local product, wins a ring. And of course, we have to talk about Caitlin Clark because I'm right and Craig's wrong. We'll get to that later. But welcome to the Blazer Focus podcast. I am Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian and OregonLive. I'm joined by Craig Birnbach. We haven't spoken in a while, Craig. I just haven't felt like the need for us to talk about much until now. Now we're in draft mode now. It's a week away. I've been
on the cusp.
On the cusp. I've been doing these draft profiles to get myself ready for the draft so that I at least know some names when the draft comes about. But I guess let's start here. Have you caught draft fever yet, Craig? Because I have not.
I don't even have draft allergies right now. I mean, this draft is just so. I want to be excited, right?
No draft sniffles.
I'm like, who? What? I mean, there is no clear-cut number one, and we're less than a week away. Right. There's not even a clear-cut 1, 2, or 3 like one of these. You know, it is to me one of the wildest drafts in a long time, where you just really don't know who's going to do what. There's talk that the Hawks will draft at 1, and there's talk that they'll trade. You know, so the only thing I'm looking forward to is going in with no expectations, you know, and like seeing what happens. And then I look forward to 4 years down the road when we're like, well, remember why we said that draft stunk? Well, this guy was picked 19th, and now he's the next Giannis. Because right now I'm not looking at this draft and saying, oh, they're crazy. This is the clear number one, or that guy shouldn't go 1. Or the Blazers should do this. The Blazers should do that. But yeah, I haven't been this kind of blasé about a draft in a long time.
Yeah. One reality is that we're coming off last year, right? Where last year the Blazers had the 3rd pick. They were going to get Scoot Henderson, a generational talent, or they were going to trade the pick, to help Damian. So there was all of those storylines around the draft.
I was excited 2 years ago when they had the 7th pick.
I'm not done. I'm getting to that.
My bad.
See, you New Yorkers, man. You can't let someone finish a paragraph, man. You got to jump right in. Just kidding. And so anyway, you had that. And the year before, that was when they decided to tank and traded CJ, and they got the 7th pick. And it was like, okay, this is an interesting draft. Who could they get? And they hadn't been in the lottery in a long time. Right, so the last lottery pick was, CJ, I guess, when CJ and Zach, but they hadn't been that high. They hadn't been inside the top 10 in a long time. So that was exciting, and there was some interesting players in that draft. This draft, you're 7 after having tied for the 3rd worst record in the league, and they finished 7th pick. So you have that downer, and then it's a lame draft according to the prognosticators. It might not be. It might end up being amazing. We'll find out, right? But going into it, if you tell everyone this draft sucks, it's not any good, picking number 7 is like picking number 13 in another draft, then people's excitement is not going to be there. And I just find, like you talk about the volatility, it's like, how do you zero in on someone and then feel like, at 7 that they're really getting an impact player? You just feel like they're getting a total toss of the coin, even more so than usual. And so that lessens the excitement. But that being said, the Blazers have assets to work with. They could trade Brogdon still. Maybe there's an and trade. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think they really want to trade up in this draft. I do think they could maybe move up, package those 2 picks or what have you. So there's going to be some intrigue. But yeah, whenever they get whoever they get, they're getting someone that is not as sexy and exciting as Brandon Miller was, as Scoot Henderson and others. And so that just makes it kind of a downer.
And they have 4 picks.
Yeah, 2 second-round picks.
I mean, it's like you say, they got 7, 14, and 2 second-rounders. I mean, this is the kind of draft with 4 picks in most years. When you have 2 top 15 picks and 2 second-round picks that are decent, you're thinking, oh my goodness, like, we could do anything. Like, who do we want? And now you're like, please don't draft 4 guys, right? Like, we don't have room for 4 guys. Like, what are you going to get in the 2nd round? So what can you do with this? And there isn't, like last year, if they wanted to trade that 3 pick, they could have. You know what I mean? They weren't going to move up because there was no way 1 and 2 was going to move, but they could have changed things up with Dame and everything like that and traded down and gotten a player. But it doesn't feel like you could even package these 2 first-rounders to get yourself that 25-year-old, 26-year-old wing, 3 or 4 that you've been looking for. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the Fentress dream, which is, trade a bunch of decent parts for that 26-year-old forward. So that's the other part, is like the Blazers are going to be active in the draft because they got 4 picks.
True. All right, so let's do this way, because I want to do a podcast before the draft next week, and then of course we'll do one after the draft. But let's just, instead of trying to break down all the prospects and who would be the best fit, blah blah blah, give me, and I can go first if you want me to, but let's give our realistic best case scenarios based on what we would like to see. All right, let's go that route. so I'll go first. So first of all, I've been told that the goal is they're still in rebuilding mode. They're in talent acquisition mode. So when push comes to shove, they're going to take the young guy with upside over maybe the older guy who can maybe help you more now, because they're still thinking long term. They're not trying to win next season. Like, that's not the goal. If you start the season next season, if you start the season and Scoot and Sharp blow up, right? And then Ayton is still what he was at the end of this past season, and Ant's healthy and firing, and Williams comes back and gives you some rim protection. Like, I think you're going to be a lot better, obviously, if you have guys healthy as opposed to unhealthy. And you're going to win some games. And then all of a sudden you might be, 15 and 15. And you're like, well, we're kind of in the postseason hunt here. Let's roll with this. But that's not the goal. And I sort of even believe that if that were to happen, there might be some moves made to make sure that they fall off a bit, because they want into this draft next year. Like, this is the worst draft to have 7 and 14, or even go into the lottery with a pretty good chance at number 1. The next year's draft is supposed to be loaded. So you want to be in the lottery in that draft. And I don't think they're going to pass up the chance to maybe get a high-end talent in that draft, maybe on par with a Sharp, who was taken 7th pick 2 years ago, in order to make the play-in and get smoked, right? I just don't think that that's the mindset. So because of that, I don't think they're going to draft anyone, over 22. Like, so Dalton Connect, if he's there at 7, which he may not be there, I don't think they take him. Even though he's exactly what you need, right? He's 6'6", he can play the 3, although not ideal. He shoots the lights out, which means he's tough and he's aggressive and he's tenacious. He's going to come right in and help your team right away. He's going to be one of the best shooters on your team, and he's an adult. He can buy alcohol, which I love using that line. But I think if they're sitting there and he's there, or someone like that, but someone like Ron Holland, who they might wait till 14 on Holland, but someone like that who's ultra athletic, 6'7", 6'8", needs to work on his shooting. But man, physically, he's potentially elite, and he likes to play defense. You go that route. He's only 18, 19. He's going to grow up with Shaden and Scoot. Or Tidjane, oh my gosh, Salon. I'll go Salon. Guy from France, 6'9", 18, super raw, can shoot it, can score at all levels. Again, has, just like Holland, has a defensive tenacity, needs to work on everything. Of course, he's 18, right? 18. But if that guy at 6'9", with his athleticism and his versatility, if he pops, now you got a 6'9" dude, as opposed to just
he could be 6'11". By the time he's 21.
As opposed to just, someone like Dalton, who's a good shooter now, but 23, but he pretty much is what he is. He's probably not going to end up being great, whereas one of these other young cats could. So for me, I think at 7, I don't know if they're going to go Holland, but I can see maybe Tidjane. Tyler Smith probably not going to go at 7, but I'm gonna go right now that it would be Holland or Tidjane at 7, and they roll the dice on a young athletic dude. And then at 14, maybe at 14 you take, Dalton's not going to be there, but you take someone who maybe has more of an instant presence as a veteran guy who maybe can be in your rotation right away. But even then, I could see them going young as well.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense to draft a 22-year-old at this point, right? That you don't even know can step in and be ahead of your other guys that are right there. So, look, my best case scenario is that the world gets shocked And somehow, because everyone's saying if Klingon doesn't go 1 overall, he could drop all the way to 7. And I would take him in a heartbeat. 20-year-old, 7'2" guy, just a defensive, to me, a game changer. And you can't, to me, obviously injuries come into it, but there is no doubt in my mind this guy's going to be a difference maker in the league, even if it's just because he's so good defensively. But he's really athletic. I mean, we watched the run with UConn. I mean, he's got some skills and the possibilities to develop more. So I would go, that's my hope.
If he falls, you take him.
If he falls, or I would do whatever if it's close, to move up.
Right. That's going to be my next
I
question.
would. I mean, I would do what you want to. What do you want? If you, I would like that guy.
7 and 14 and move up to 3 to get him. You do it?
I would do it.
Okay.
I would do it. The other guy I really like, who's right there at 7, is I like Stephen Castle. So yes, am I a UConn homer? Apparently so. I like him because he's a 6'6" guy. He's young. He is 19. He's not. He could play 1, 2, or 3. Everyone's saying he thinks he's a point guard. He's 6'6". People think he's a 3, and possibly a 2. And I understand that you got a bunch of guys 6'4" and under.
Who'd you say?
Stephen Castle.
Okay.
UConn. Now,
I don't know if he came in or not.
He might.
Go ahead.
Go ahead of 7. He might not make it to 7, right?
I don't think,
because we don't know, but he could go to 10.
Yeah, but I don't think they brought him in for workout. But go ahead.
But he is, most of the drafts say anywhere between 4 and 8. Everyone says he could be a lockdown defender, and again, to me, and that's what he was for them in winning a championship. Like, he was the guy. Like, go get him. And I don't see anything in this draft that says guarantee on offense. So why not go with what you think is a guarantee on defense? Because it is a very important part of the game. I mean, the Mavericks didn't lose an NBA championship because they're not offensively gifted. They couldn't guard a really good team who, by the way, the Celtics are incredible defensively. So I don't know. If you're going to draft young guys that you don't know where the upside is, I'd rather be able to get guys I know that can play defense. So, and then everything else you said, I'm down with. I like Odie Williams. His brother's in the NBA. He's 6'7". I wish he was 6'9", but he's 19. He played in a big conference. He showed that he might be able to shoot, but we think he's athletic enough to play both sides of the ball. And then all the European guys that I've never seen, even, the guys that played in the Ignite, played in the G League for the Ignite. I'm with you on go high upside and get a forward, but right. I just would side on some known thing if they're there, and defense matters. So go where the highest grades are, at least on defense, because we've seen plenty of guys that have been drafted in the first round and they did not reach their offensive potential. But if they could play defense, you can't call them a bust, because at least they're, like Thibault's a good Matisse. Like, he's not a bust because he plays D. He plays D at least. I'm just saying, like, your hope. No one's saying this guy can do this and that. But hey, I'm drafted a 19-year-old and 20-year-old in my best case scenario. It's just 2 guys I've seen. So that's why I'm doing it, right? Because I feel that way. But I'll feel better. Honestly, I'll feel better if they do something. Like, I'll feel good if they
something aggressive.
Or just move up 1 spot to get the guy. Like, I feel like you like the guy, rather than what you're saying is probably most people are saying what's going to happen in this draft is you're just going to get lucky. You're going to draft guys that are on everyone's lists anywhere from 1 to 15, and you're going to draft one of them, and if your guy hits, you're lucky. Like, I would feel really good if the Blazers said, you know what? He's available. I love Steve. I love Castle. We're going to move up to 6 just to get him, or 5 just to get him, so that we know that, we know the Hornets like him, and we like him more. So here's our second round pick to move up those 2 spots. Because I don't think it's going to take a ton to move up in this draft.
Right.
I mean, like, why would it?
Okay, so first of all, I disagree with the idea of taking. I'm not saying it's a bad philosophy taking defense over offense. I disagree for the Blazers because they have a bunch of dudes on their team that this guy can play defense. Kamara, you mentioned Matisse, Rupert is supposed to be a defensive guy.
Yeah.
They like Jabari's defensive energy. But what do all four of those guys have in common? They can't shoot. And then Chris Murray, they like he's not necessarily a high end defensive prospect. He's sort of like a jack of all trades, across the board. Right now he's below average because he's a rookie, but he shot decently in college, so he'll probably shoot well in the pros as soon as he acclimates. But the point is, none of those guys are guys you want shooting the ball at all, right? In the clutch. I say I would take the dude and now the two youngsters I mentioned, they have shooting issues to work on, but they're super young. But if I had to err on the side of do I want shooting or defense and someone in that 20-year range, I'm taking shooting all day because they have none. They got to get dudes who can shoot it. And so then you have some defensive guys you're trying to teach to shoot, and then you have some offensive guys you're trying to get to play decent defense. But to me, adding another forward in that 20 range who can't shoot but plays defense, I already got a bunch of guys like that.
Yeah, but all the guys you're saying are the same thing. They can't shoot.
But they're 18. The two guys I said
Castle's
are 18.
19. Castle's 19 and scored 21 points in the Final Four in the game and 15 in the finals.
And I didn't say I was against Castle. I said the philosophy you were talking about. I said I want to err super young or offense over defense. That's all.
Well, if you showed me an offensive player that I was like, this guy's all about offense, I'd take him. But that would be Dalton Connect if he was there.
Yeah, but or Filipowski or whatever.
Yeah, he's 20. What, he's 22,
he's
right?
23. He's 23.
Yeah, look, all those guys you just mentioned, none of them are going to be on the team.
None of them?
I mean, like,
next year or
maybe,
in the future?
But they're going to be backups. What I'm saying is try to find a starter in this mix, and I think Castle at 19 might be. I know Klingon's a starter. You know what I mean? Like, in my world. I mean, he's to me, the closest thing to what you would consider a number one pick. He's 7'2". He can run. He can jump. He's got injury issues because all big men do apparently. So, but that's why if I were the Hawks, that's who I would draft number one, and I'd figure out the rest. Right? Maybe is he Jokic? Probably not, but he's got skills. Like some in the Athletics mock draft at 14, they have Zach Edey going to the Blazers, and I'm like, well, I know he can't guard anybody because he can't move. And I give him credit, one of the best college basketball players for 3 straight years, you know what I mean? And he made his game. I don't know if he can play in the NBA. I don't know. I wouldn't draft him off that. To me, the high side that makes no sense to me. When you already have a guy, that's your starting center. I don't. Now, maybe Edey becomes something that many people, that no one else is, kind of scouted to see. Like that he can shoot threes. I don't know. I'm all for your guys too. I'm not against them. I just want them to want something. Like I want them to say, this is the guy. We've told you that we've hired this great front office that's all about getting a championship here in a time frame of God knows when, but like 4 or 5 years. And this is our guy in this draft because you've got the pieces. You don't get 2 draft picks next year because you don't want them this year. You get them because you stink again and you make moves, right? Like, so of course, you say like they really want to be in that draft. Yeah, well, they've made sure that they're going to be in that draft because they're not very good. And they're going to trade. They should trade. Like keeping Brogdon makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like, what are you doing? What is the purpose? You don't want to be good. So trade him.
Okay, so they didn't want picks. Well,
sure.
Specifically this year. They didn't want another pick this year, right? Because it's a bad draft. If this was 2025, they would have taken that pick in a heartbeat, right? They wanted players. They couldn't get players. So now, but you put yourself in a position where next year, is someone going to give up a pick? It has to be someone in someone picking late, right? Someone in contention who has a late pick, right, in the 20s would probably give that up for Brogdon to help them with the title run. Whereas last year, the Blazers wouldn't have wanted it, the 20th pick, and they have time to wait on it, and also have time to maybe steal a young player or what have you as well. So I think they're trying to trade him. I think the goal is to trade him. I don't think there's any way in heck they don't trade him. If they do not trade him, they lose him as a free agent, then that would be a huge L. So I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway,
I already think it's an L.
You do?
Yeah, because
Why?
I think that Brogdon his stock did not rise. I think it's lower, and I don't think they're gonna. I think that they should have flipped him right away. And sure, could they have gotten another draft pick this year, and that would have been great? I don't know. I just know that the longer you keep stuff, and it doesn't mean it's going to be worth more. And I don't feel he's worth more. Another injury, another year older, another year closer to free agency.
Yeah, but the injury was, come on.
Well, not at first. Not at first.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about the injury, right? Like they tried to trade him, then he had an injury.
Right.
So would they try to trade damaged goods?
I'm just saying. Well, I don't know. I mean, that elbow.
I mean, all of a sudden he had an elbow
took a long
injury.
time. You're maybe, but then the whole point is I'm just saying. Like, I don't feel like it was the two parts that they got that they said that everyone assumed Williams and Brogdon that they were going to possibly flip for what you want
for top 5 picks.
or a 26, 27-year-old forward, right? I mean, that had a high upside on the offensive end. They didn't get. And now they're stuck with two guys that are less valuable than they were when they got them. There's no way to say they're more valuable. So that's a loss to me. I mean, I don't see how you could say Williams and Brogdon are more valuable now than they were when they got him, because certainly Williams isn't, and to me, Brogdon's not. Now, either you didn't think he was very valuable at all, because he's not going to bring you much.
Right. I think the best case scenario for both those guys is that you were either going to flip them into some young players you liked or someone was ready to move, or you were going to get picks, preferably first-round picks.
Or Williams is going to be really good.
Yeah, I still think Williams was not part of their future.
Now
regardless.
Now we just hope he plays.
Right. But to me, if Brogdon begins the season with the team, which he probably will, and he plays well, I think a contending team that needs a guard is going to give up a first-round pick for him. Like I just do. And it might be a future. But he's definitely, if he's the Malcolm Brogdon we saw in Portland when he played, he's definitely worth a late first-round pick. Absolutely, 100% to a good team. Because he...
I mean, I'll wait and see it, and when it happens, I'll say, "Well done." No, I will. Okay. I mean that's fine. If you flip him for a first-round pick for next year,
it'll be late. It'll be late, obviously, because it'll have to be a team
you get
that's
me in
winning.
The first round. You get me in the first round with him, not 2 seconds.
Right.
I'll say, "Well done."
Okay. Yeah,
I think and I'll applaud it and hope it ends up being a really good player. But I'm skeptical.
But you ain't buying it.
Well, not till it happens, right? I'm skeptical. Right. I'm doubting is the word I can pronounce. I'm doubting that'll happen. I don't know if it will happen at this point in time because I don't know how valuable he is to other teams.
Right.
I agree that he's a solid player, but a first-round draft pick, they don't often get. The Knicks got Bogdanovich, which didn't work out. But they didn't have to give up a first for him. And if you ask me which one I would have rather had going down a stretch run before he, fell down and broke his foot and whatever happened, I would have rather had Bogdanovich.
Okay, you could be right. Well, and if that's the case, then it's part of the smoke and mirrors I talked about when they first made all those trades. Speaking of which, we're going to get to that in a sec. But let's start with Payton Pritchard first. Payton Pritchard out of Westland in Oregon. Yeah. He won 18 state titles in high school in 4 years. It's pretty impressive.
4-4, baby. That's all you can do.
Help the Ducks get to the Final Four. And now just won a ring as a backup guard with the Celtics. He's been through some up and downs. He kind of wanted out a couple years ago because of his role. But they didn't move him. He stayed. They ended up extending him. And he sort of settled in a nice backup role there for them.
That was just last year.
Yeah, it was just last year. I caught up with him briefly when they came to town, did a story on him. But yeah, it's always good to see local products find success in the pros. And, backup or not, dude's got a ring, right?
Oh,
and he's a Celtics legend.
Yeah, slow your roll.
After hitting that three, they'll be talking about that three for forever.
Yeah. It was good. They won that game by more than 3, though. So
didn't that 3 put him up 26 or something like that?
I'm just saying, like, it didn't make or break. They were all going to be all right. I love Payton Pritchard. I got to cover his 4 high school state championships and some of his Ducks career, and just solid dude. Was great as a freshman, just solid like throughout. And that's what he is. He's a really solid basketball player, and he made it. And now he's a solid NBA player. He's not going to start in front of any of those guys on Boston, but thanks to some deals and injuries, he ended up being a part of the rotation, and he got to play in the finals and win a ring. That is a rare thing to do. So I say congrats, and I'm really happy for him and his family and Lake Oswego and University of Oregon, all that. Well done. But legend.
Someone referred to him as a legend. He became a legend.
I'm just saying, they got a, I don't know. I'm not so sure that Jason, I don't know if Tatum and Brown are legends yet in Boston. Like, you gotta win a lot. You win 1, you're not in the Bird category yet, and you're certainly not in the Bill Russell category yet. So let's slow our roll.
Okay, the other thing that kind of was brought up during the series and after the Boston Celtics won was Lillard's role in the finals, because Lillard, as we know, was traded to Milwaukee. Jrue Holiday came back, and then Holiday was traded to Boston for Brogdon, whom we just talked about, Robert Williams, whom we talked about, what turned out to be the 14th pick in this draft that used to belong to the Warriors, and a 2029 unprotected pick. Obviously, Holiday was a big deal for the Celtics, helped them win the title. A lot of people were saying, "Hey, thank the Blazers, thank Cronin for making that happen." But we don't have to talk about that. I mean, the Holiday fit well for them. That was a good move for them. Obviously, I don't think we can really judge the Bucks situation because their 2 stars got hurt. When Giannis went out, they were screwed. Had Tatum or Jaylen Brown gone out for the Celtics, they would have been screwed. So these things happen, whatever. But here's the thing: I just mentioned what they got for Holiday. So a lot of people were talking about, hey, that 2029 pick could be something. And I'm like, okay, only if Tatum or Brown or both get injured or traded, and they're 26 and 25. We're talking about 5 years out, which may sound like an eternity, and a lot of things can happen, I agree. But in 5 years, they'll still both be in their prime at 30 and 31. And even if one's gone, you got to haul for that one. So I just still believe that pick is not going to be great at all. Like, unless, like I said, someone gets injured. And if that pick turns out to be 27, then what did they get here? Because unless Williams can get healthy, unless you can get something for Brogdon, which you don't believe they will, this 14th pick in a weak draft is like having the 22nd pick in a regular draft, which we all know how those picks work out. And then that 2029 pick can easily be in the 20s. So is this deal that they made not looking so good? Because other than that, you got a couple swaps from Milwaukee, and I think one other first, right? And then, which may not be good at all because Giannis will still be in his prime. And then you got Aiden and the whole packaging with Nurkic and that kind of thing. So what do you think this says about?
So this is what it says. It says that the Celtics won the trades. Like, they won the Lillard trade. It also says that Jrue Holiday was worth more than the Blazers got, and they almost admitted it when they did it. That they wanted to make him happy. They gave him a list, and they sent him where he wanted to go. So the only thing I could say is that hopefully this will help you with is relationships down the road with his agent and other players. Because you talked about Brogdon getting you a late first-round draft pick. Brogdon's not in the same realm of Jrue Holiday, who they traded for that. You see what I'm saying?
They got 2 picks and 2 players for Holiday. Yeah. That's great. Different than 1 pick for Brogdon. But continue.
Yeah, the player didn't work out either. The player certainly didn't work out.
Brogdon was the best player on the team. I'm just saying.
It's hard to argue with that.
I'm just saying.
Hard to argue that.
You realize he was 6th man of the year 2 years ago for the Celtics, right?
He was.
He shot like
he played
40-something% on
52 games, right?
He didn't become bad. He didn't become bad. He just was on a bad team that didn't want to start him. He was the best. The best backcourt possible was Ant and Brogdon. And they had Brogdon backing up Scoot, which, if you're trying to win, you're not doing that. So let's give Malcolm his props. I think they won 15 games, I think, with Malcolm in the lineup, and they only won 21 in the season. So, go ahead.
I'm getting extreme for humor. So I'm just saying, Drew Holiday. I mean, he was the best. He won a title, and he didn't just go and win a title, get himself a ring. They don't win a ring without him. You know what I mean? Like, he was so important. He was so good. And in the playoffs, he was so good. And defensively, just a monster. Smart, everything. So the Celtics won that trade, no doubt about it. The Blazers, look, I said it from the beginning. I'll say it in the middle. I'll say it at the end. When you trade Damian Lillard, you're not going to win the trade. You're just not going to. I mean, there's just no way. And you didn't get enough because your goal was to stink really, really bad. And now you're going to stink for 3 years. And in the end, nothing they got. This isn't a Herschel Walker deal. They didn't where you could say, oh, that those picks led us to, Jimmy Johnson's and the Cowboys championship. That's not going to happen. That deal, there's no deal. The deal that the Blazers made to get rid of Lillard was to mostly get rid of Lillard. They didn't get him something to build on forever.
Ayton, you got DeAndre, man.
Yeah, when DeAndre
was dominating the last
wins
2
a
months.
championship for you, and he's the guy, then I'll say my bad. But and I don't love DeAndre Ayton. I don't hate DeAndre Ayton. I think he's good. But there's a reason why the number 1 overall pick was gettable for very little.
Very true.
And he's going to have to change everything to be Akeem Olajuwon. You know what I mean? Like, or even Jokic, a center that wins a championship. So in the end, I still will not agree with what the Blazers did. I still think they should have tried to win with Lillard and see what happened. And I think making the playoffs and being pretty good is better than what you've seen in the last 3 years. If it ends up leading to a championship in 2029, bravo. You know what I mean? Bravo. And that's it. That's all. I mean, that's what they did. They said, we're going to do this because we want to win a championship, and we think we can win a championship eventually. We'll see who's left to see it and if it happens. But
right.
I'm very much interested in Milwaukee next year because they've got 2 guys making more money than most countries.
They need to go get Clay.
Yeah, that'd be great. They need that outlet. But I am interested to see what happens. Can they stay healthy? And look, Lillard might not be able to stay healthy anymore. That guy was so healthy for so long and then got a real injury with the Blazers and had surgery and got a real injury up and down with Milwaukee. Like he wasn't a guy that got those things, but calves and muscles that would really hinder your game. But when they needed him most, he was not healthy. And that's what happens when you start reaching your close to mid-30s. I mean, when you reach our age, I pulled a back muscle or a rib muscle putting together a shark sprinkler yesterday. So like I'm in a lot of pain. So
go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see what Milwaukee does next year.
All right, we just talked about the Blazers and the NBA, but all anyone in the world cares about right now is the WNBA and Caitlin Clark.
Which is awesome.
Which is just, I find it all just absolutely fascinating. It's like a social science experiment. So let's start with you, Craig. What's your take? I mean, okay, Caitlin Clark comes in the NBA with a bunch of hype and hoopla. WNBA players are coming after her. Their competitiveness is taking over, and there's all these controversies about, do they hate her? Who hates whom? And blah, 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 blah. To me, it's all insane, but it's all great for the WNBA. I don't care what anyone says.
Yes.
People who would not care are watching because you have characters, you have heroes and villains, regardless of which side you're on, and it creates drama. And I was mentioning this last year when LSU and Iowa played in the finals, and we had the whole thing with Angel and Clark, and I'm like, dude, take this into the WNBA just like Magic and Bird went into the NBA back in 1979. It's the same, almost the same type of thing. And so again, it's crazy. There's a lot of ugliness involved in it as well, but at the same time, I think it's fantastic for the league.
So I think it is fantastic for the league. The parts I don't like is when we get certain people trying to inject racist hate and pin
weaponizing
people,
Clark in that regard too,
which she's not done. She doesn't belong in that mess. She's 22. It's unfair, and first of all, it's wrong.
Right.
She's everyone that we're talking about is just really good basketball players that elevated college basketball in the rivalries, and now is going to elevate professional basketball in the rivalries.
Right.
So that part I hate when people talk about that and even inject it, even if they think they're doing it jokingly. It's not funny,
right?
And it doesn't help. And Caitlin Clark doesn't get a say in what other people put her on a certain side when she's like, I'm a basketball player. Right. We're not pitted against each other.
Everything she said about everything makes, like, thank God she is who she is, because she makes all the people who whine on her behalf just look soft and ignorant and silly. And you can tell people who've never competed. You can tell, because everything that's happening has happened to hotshot rookies in every league ever. This is what happens. And in this case, you had her fans not only saying she's the greatest college player ever, which to me is ridiculous. She's not. She has the most points ever, but she took 2,800 shots over 4 years. She's obviously maybe in the discussion of the top 10.
But she's great.
She can be great, but not be the GOAT. The GOAT thing's ridiculous because the point thing doesn't matter, because that's about shots. And I mean, skill, of course, but there's other players like Sabrina. Sabrina's shooting percentages are better across the board than what Clark's were, but she didn't get as many shots. But anyway, she's obviously great, but people were acting like she's the greatest ever, and she was going to come into the WNBA and just stomp everybody. She was better than everybody. She's the best player on the planet, best player in the league already. That's what people were saying. And so anyone who's ever competed in anything, and I can tell stories from recess in elementary school to middle school to high school to college to even coaching semi-pro football, when someone says someone's better than you and they're going to crush you, you amp it up, man, and you come at that person. And that's what happened. And then people spun that into being hate. No one in the WNBA hates Caitlin Clark. Now, they might dislike some of the nonsense being said on behalf of Caitlin Clark, and then that makes her a target. But part of it also is competitiveness. Like the first game Clark played, the first regular season game, Carrington from UConn was in her shorts on her, like, and locked her up. And they played again a few days ago, and she locked her up again. That's competition. That's competing. And Caitlin Clark, bless her heart, she gets it while her fans do not. We can go back to during her season when Dinah Taurasi and Cheryl Swoops, two legends of the game, said, there's a rude awakening coming when she gets to WNBA. And they got smashed and accused of hating when they were just giving an analysis on the sport. They know more than everyone who's ripping them do collectively. And they were right, 100% across the board. But Caitlin gets it. To her, the hard fouls, it's about competition. There's video of her performing hard fouls, like in college, shoving a woman to the ground. Even the play where she got hit in the back, on the other end, she threw two elbows on the woman who ended up hitting her in the back. And then was talking trash the whole time way down the court. Now, should the blindside hit? Yeah, that's wrong. But the Chicago Tribune editorial board called it an assault.
Ridiculous.
Tell me you have no black. Tell me you have only white people on your editorial board who've never competed in sports without telling me you don't. I mean, it was Tribune writers were on Twitter saying, Tribune writers were on Twitter. Tribune writers were on Twitter embarrassed by that.
Is embarrassing.
They don't. And just a few days ago, Angel Reese, who plays in Chicago, got clotheslined and thrown to a ground. Far more harder foul. Was that homicide attempt? No. But so that kind of stuff is what pisses people off. But it has nothing to do with Clark. And Clark, like I said, man, Clark knows exactly what's going on and what it's about. And she says, bring it. This is how it's supposed to be. It's just competition. It's just rivalry. I bet her and Angel Reese text each other probably, man, this is crazy, huh? Yeah, it is. But you know I love you, girl. Like, I'm not guaranteeing that, but I bet that's probably going on.
Or maybe they do dislike each other.
But I don't think they do.
Which is fine.
But they, well, yeah, which is fine. But I don't think they do.
No,
like the things they
like
say.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, but the things they say indicate that there's no animosity between them
Right,
at all.
I'm
It's just
just saying, like,
competition. But if they did,
Bird
yeah,
you
Bert
brought up Bird and Magic. Bird and Magic did not like each other
until
on
they
the
had
but
dinner
they
at
said all
Bert's
the
mama's
right
house.
things.
Until they had dinner at Bert's mama's house, then they became
Right.
best friends. But originally, yeah, they didn't like each other, and part
Because
of
they
it was
compete against each other at the highest
exactly,
level.
exactly.
Right.
Magic
And
had
why
beat,
would you? We all, when you competed, you've all just, at every level.
of
You said from
course.
recess to whatever. In my world, is a pretty darn good wrestler in New Jersey. I can tell you the 3 dudes I didn't like, and the town's over. Right.
Right.
And like when one of my friends started dating one, I was like mad.
Oh,
Right. So
you're like,
I'm
you
just saying,
can't
like,
date that
of course,
person.
of course. And but that's what people do now. They want people to join their team of hate and dislike and pitting people against each other.
Right.
And that's the part that's terrible. And when people do that in the media to move their agenda and make it's ridiculous. And to write that was assault. I mean, it's like, have you never seen in basketball games, in baseball games, in football games, sometimes there's actual fights and no one gets arrested for assault.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? LeGarrette Blount, that was assault. You know what I mean? That was assault.
Now,
You blindsided dude. And they didn't write a column then, so but that's just ridiculous and you can't even mention it. To me, the other thing about the WNBA is that it is a hard league for college players to transition into. And she's not doing terribly. She's actually doing pretty well. And she's
doing
getting better
lately. She's getting playing well lately.
better every game.
But
they transition in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't get a training camp, really. They literally finish the finals, and 9 minutes later, they're starting in a WNBA game. It doesn't happen.
No, she had camp. She had full camp, but go ahead.
I'm just saying, the NBA,
there's no real rest. You have months. Yeah, in the NBA, you have months.
I'm just saying,
right. I get
months.
you. I get you.
In football, they have months. In the WNBA, the season's away a line. She's got to be exhausted. Admittedly, now it's getting better. But professional women's basketball, often the women in WNBA are playing in other leagues too, so it's constant because of where the compensation is, and she's helping with that for sure, right? She's helping with that, and you said it. All the attention, the fact that we're talking about it in a Blazers podcast. No one cares what we have to say about it, but the whole world wants to talk about it, including us. I'm just saying, even Sabrina, in her first year, she averaged 11 a game.
And she shot horribly.
Did not shoot well. Yeah. And then up to 17 a game.
Yeah.
And to me, Sabrina is, as far as a player, a women's basketball player that I got to see all the time, she's the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, she's great. And triple-double machine. And she struggled. And she was a number 1 overall pick. And other number 1 overall picks have struggled. And some of the things, Shoni Schimmel was the best high school basketball player I ever saw. I mean, just ridiculous. Now, she had stuff off the court, but she made all-star teams, but she never, when she went from college to the WNBA, she couldn't do the things that she could do at every level, which was crazy stuff. It's a hard league because these players are awesome. And they're from all over the world. And they're great. And they play at a different level of physicality. And they match up size-wise completely different than they've done. So you don't get to walk in and just dominate. And, of course, you say they don't dislike her. All competitors, that's half of it is building yourself up to make it personal. And so I'm fine with people making it personal.
That's different than truly. That's different than truly.
Oh, right. I'm just saying, though, that there's that thing. They're like, this is their moment too. When they play Caitlin Clark right now, they know more eyes are on her.
Correct.
So you want to step up because it's competition. But
someone on Twitter,
I just don't like any. I don't like. She might by the end of the year be dominating again. She's great. She's really good. Now, is she the greatest of all time to play college basketball? No. I don't think she is, but she did play against probably the best competition because women's basketball right now at the college level is really, really good. And it wasn't always that way. I mean, there were dominant teams, but you could probably pick out the Final Four before the season started easier and than you can now, even though similar teams made it again. I love it. I like watching her play. I like watching others in the WNBA play that are now great. I love watching Sabrina play. I mean, it's just fun. So
Someone the other
let's
day
get a team to Portland, man. Let's get a team. We're so close. We're so close.
Someone the other day said there was a foul in some game, and someone said the WNBA is the NBA. It's the 1990s NBA. It cracked me up because it was so true. You see all these bodies flying all over the place. Yeah, I mean, look, the number one thing I love about Caitlin's game is her court vision. I love passers. That's why Magic's my favorite player ever. And the way she sees the court and passes people open and anticipates certain things is sublime. Like, it's fun to watch. Like, she's a really good passer, just like Sabrina is. The shooting's going to be there. She's going to figure things out at this level and be able to get, better looks and better shots. I just don't think she's going to, dominate the league, averaging 27, 8 and 8 and winning all these titles, because I just don't think she brings anything physically to the court that's going to be insurmountable for other teams. She's not overly large. She's not overly athletic. And you don't have like in the NBA, you've had great players who could do things physically that other people couldn't do, like Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, who was a monster. She doesn't have any of those types of traits, but she's going to be a fantastic pro. And the shooting percentages and turnovers, those are things that you expect from rookies. It's just, to me, it's just about everyone accepting that this is how competition works and not trying to turn it into something it's not. And Caitlin has not done that. And that's going to benefit her in the end, and also earn more respect with the vets who are going to respect who she is and what she's about more, because she's not whining and crying like her fans. All right.
The Olympic team was the only thing that was an interesting conversation, because there were a lot of people that were saying that she should be on the team because of the attention.
Eyeballs, right.
And that's not wrong. Like, it's not terrible to have that as an idea. But she's not as good as the players that were picked.
Right.
She has the potential to be as good. But I mean, the dream team had Christian Laettner, and obviously,
but that was wrong.
Right. But the reason why they did it was a decision to bring a college basketball. They said it.
Right.
We're going to bring a college basketball player on the team. And Christian Laettner might be the greatest college basketball player all the time with his resume. I'm just saying, not skill-wise, but his resume was amazing. Amazing. And I'm just saying, like, that guy's in the Hall of Fame.
There's no doubt. He won a lot.
He was awesome. I'm not a Duke fan. I grew up a North Carolina fan until they trounced the University of Rhode Island in 1994. But I'm fine. 1993, 94, I'm good. But I'm just saying, like, they didn't make that announcement. They didn't say they were going to bring like a first year, and again,
a rookie.
The way the Summer Olympics worked, he was in between his. You had it in between college and pro. They don't have, that's not something that they're already in the WNBA. So, but you know what? The fact that she said all the right things there too, like, it's the hardest team in the world to make.
Yeah.
Like, she's awesome.
And still, I believe, I've said this numerous times, that something's going to break for her to get on it. Like, there's going to be an injury, there's going to be something that she's going to end up on it. Like, that's my prediction, right? Because she's right there. She's an alternate, right? So it only takes one. It only takes one ankle, one knee, and then boom, she's on it.
Yeah,
right?
if this was an NBA All-Star team, she'd already be on.
Yeah,
that would take it 8 minutes. Like, I'm not on the team 7 minutes later. So-and-so's not going to be in it because got an ingrown toenail. He's out.
But here's what pisses me off about the Michelle Tafoyas running around and the Brennans and all that stuff. It's like, and then the fans saying they're not going to watch. Like, okay, so you're not going to watch the best women, truly the best women players who have won WNBA titles, won Olympic gold medals, multiple All-Stars, MVPs, right? You're going to watch the women that you think Clark is going to become one of. You're not going to watch them because she's not there playing 6 or 7 minutes a game. Like, that's the attitude. It's like, we can't take you seriously. So the WNBA is never going to grow if you only care about one player.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then the animosity behind
Isaiah Thomas didn't make the dream team. Isaiah Thomas didn't make the dream team.
I know, it's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? Like, the Piston fans boycott? Maybe, but it won't matter. Like.
Well, I do think ratings go up if Clark is there. I think the ratings would be up if Clark is there.
Well, guess what?
But
when she's 26, there'll be another Olympics.
Exactly.
Are you going to watch then?
Yeah.
Because if she goes on the trajectory she's supposed to go on, she'll be on that team.
Right.
And if she's not, it's not going to be. She won't be that popular anymore because she won't be that good.
Right.
So
and then
that's
when she's
ridiculous.
40, and when she's 40, and she has the resume that Diana has, and there's some hotshot rookie that comes in, Caitlin Clark will be on the team because of her history and her resume. So it'll pay itself back off.
Let's hope, right? Let's hope. I hope she has that kind of that resume because
We'll see.
Diana Taurasi's resume is ridiculous.
It's insane. It's insane. And if you're in a game and you need a spot up shooter, I'd rather have Diana than Caitlin right now because Diana's been there, done that. All right, we good?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. We knocked out 15 minutes. Good job, man. All right, thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus podcast. We're gonna be back next week. We doing Monday? We committing to Monday? You committing to Monday? You in?
This Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta go Monday for our official pre-draft, and then maybe do on maybe Thursday if we can. Or maybe Wednesday night after the first round, if you're game.
These are not for the podcast. We'll talk.
Aren't you off? You work in a school district.
I work, man. I don't get off.
You don't have that teacher gig, huh? That teacher gig, you just be chilling at the beach right now.
They do get the summers off, but they got to deal with a lot of stuff I don't have to.
This is true. All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back at some point next week as Craig checks his busy calendar.